to the community.
Welcome to your Hometown News. I'm April Frelke with my co-hosts Nick Kaufman and Joe Minnie.
Co-hosts.
Co-hosts.
Yeah, two of them. Absolutely.
What show is this?
Why are we dressed up?
Well, Nick, you tell us.
This is our 400th show.
400th
400th show. Now, not ours, okay, because they've been doing shows for studio about 8 years,
right? We should say Tim and Peter Mallinger's.
Tim and Peter Mallinger, yes. Absolutely. Now, how many years have you been anchoring?
It was 2 years May.
Right now we can see on our screen they just showed the original cast.
Did they really?
Just had that, yes.
They flashed.
They just did that real quickly. So, Joe?
2 years.
Yep, just a little over 2 years May.
6, and me about 8 months short of, or a full term, 9 months, full term short of you.
And out of the 8 years.
Out of the 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Next 400 will be even better.
Yeah, very good. Hey, we got a big show tonight.
Well, the Connect 24 is brought to you by Oakdale Credit Union, Rudig Jensen in New Lisbon, and Molter's Fresh Market in Tomah.
Well, for our first little announcement tonight, Coulee Cap, we've talked about them before, has launched a new eviction prevention program to help low-income residents experiencing income loss because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Wisconsin Rental Assistance Program, or WRAP, is funded by the Wisconsin Department of Administration from dollars within the Federal CARES Act. Governor Evers allocated $25 million in statewide aid for this. The initiative will service households with an income at or below 80% of the county median income in the month or prior month, okay, to the application date. And that was also, and those that are also behind on rental payments, so it does go backwards too. Once approved, eligible individuals may receive assistance of up to $3,000 in a combination of rental payments and or security deposits. These payments will be paid directly to the landlord on behalf of the tenant. Applicants must be a Wisconsin resident who is not receiving other forms of housing assistance or a tenant of subsidized housing already. Now, in addition to rental assistance, all applicants will be automatically evaluated to receive state energy assistance, and Coulee Cap case managers will provide help with household budgeting, program referrals with application assistance, and other social service support that they are so well known for. So there. Is that Coulee Cap? Can't beat them. Okay,
well,
right.
Camp Douglas has started their farmers market, and we have organizer in the studio, Katie Kopplin. We want to welcome her, and she is the avant-garde oil enthusiast, business owner. Katie, welcome to the Lynxx. So, Camp Douglas Farmers Market, brand new summer venue for you. Can you tell our viewers about it?
So we had our first week last weekend, and I was pleasantly surprised with the outcome that the local vendors and entrepreneurs, I guess, kind of rallied up to get out there.
Okay, what are the details on it? What date, time, all that?
Yeah, it's every Sunday from 9 to 1. It's located in Camp Douglas, right off Main Street. And
you can't miss it. You've got a great farmers market sign.
Yeah, and we got a nice little setup. Mm-hmm. The village has helped out substantially with all of that, and we have just ladies right now, so we're always taking more vendors. If you are interested, we have a lot more room to expand.
And how, if somebody is interested in being a vendor with any product or produce, how would they do that?
Yep, so they can reach out directly to me. I can supply my phone number. I don't know if I sent that with you guys or not, but
okay.
They can stop by the shop. Otherwise, there are flyers up around the area too. Mm-hmm. So you can reach out to me either through Facebook, email, or my
now,
cell phone number.
could they actually stop in the Camp Douglas Village, the hall, and find out? Because you have to kind of fill out the vendor paperwork for
Absolutely.
them.
I know that the village clerk is there Monday through Thursday. So yeah, you could definitely stop there to pick the application
can you
up.
Just so our viewers a little bit of taste of the vendors that you have?
Yep. So we have jams, jellies, honey. We have glass creations, we have squirrel feeders, bird feeders, lawn ornaments, we have pickled and canned vegetables, spices, we have homemade cat and dog toys, eggs, body care products. It's a beet dirt scrub, a tinted lip and cheek moisturizer, soaps. There's a gal that makes actually like homemade cards. They're beautiful. They're very inexpensive, and they're just so unique compared to the ones that you see in a local big chain store, basically. And then my friend April.
Yeah, April, huh?
April, yeah, her last name's Frelke, and that's you.
That's me. That
Yeah.
would be me, Katie.
Yeah, Queen Bee Cakes and Bakery.
Yes, I sold out my cakes within like 20 minutes.
I think it
They
was
were-
like 10.
10, it was.
Yeah.
And the king cookies, these huge,
Yeah.
gigantic chocolate chip
Yeah.
cake cookies. Yeah.
They were amazing, and
Yes.
they're very, very good.
So we'll wrap it
Hopefully
up.
she brings more next week.
I think there's more, and there's people waiting for more cake.
Yeah.
Homemade.
And we are going to be getting more produce stuff, so
Okay, great.
the gardens are growing.
Well, thanks. Well, continuing our Connect 24, I'm going to send it back over to the desk with Nick and Joe with an interview. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, April. The Boys and Girls Club in Tomah, one of my favorite groups, has announced their summer program plans. And here to give us the details, we have, for the first time here on the studio, Amy Whitwam. Whitwam, thank you. And welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's good to have you.
Congratulations on your 400th show.
Hey, we have to
Fun
finish it
stuff.
first. Right?
And Boys and Girls Club is actually celebrating their 20th birthday this year, so that's exciting.
hey,
Yeah,
fantastic.
celebrations.
Milestones abound. Well, Amy, I have the first question for you. Boys and Girls Club, give us the rundown on the new summer program and how it's going to work.
Sure. Yes, we actually just wrapped up parent applications. We did have to limit the number of youth this year because we want to honor the guidelines, the safety and health guidelines that are coming to us through Monroe County Health and Human Services and the Department of Children and Families. We want to keep everyone safe. That's our priority. And so we are ready to get started. We'll run Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
Wow,
a
that's
full
good.
day.
And what will a typical day look like now this summer compared to, let's say, well, we would say before the virus, but say since last summer?
Sure. Typically, it's definitely, I would say, a little more free in how the kiddos move around and what they do and where they go. Although we are still maintaining our enrichment activities, we're still bringing in fun things and learning activities for them. But now when they come in, they'll actually wait in the car with their parents and they'll go through a temperature. We'll check their temperature and ask a few assessment questions on their health. And then they'll be able to come on in, wash their hands, and then we get going with breakfast. And they do outdoor activities yet at parks, no playgrounds. But then we'll come in and do art activities or science activities, math. And then we have lunch and we're back outside and then we come in for more activities. So we have a full day.
You do?
The kiddos will be grouped though. This year where typically they get to just move around.
Okay, and what kind of ages now have you got?
Sure, 2nd grade through 6th grade is what we're open to this summer.
Oh, okay. Now, so that cuts out the older ones.
Correct. Our teens are being very gracious in allowing us to use the teen center this summer. They do miss it, but because of space and because we want to keep our numbers to 10 kiddos and 1 staff member and keep them segregated, we are going to use the teen center for our 5th and 6th graders. But they are very excited that they get to be at the cool teen center.
At the cool teen center.
Well, are they going? Is it still going to be incorporated with the Tomah School District's school summer programs when they do theirs?
Summer school, so they typically
there was
we
no
would go
summer
there for
pack.
right,
Yeah.
and so it is a little bit different this year. So we won't be as involved as we typically are, and we have health and safety guidelines that we
Sure.
need to meet, and so we'll function more so on our own. We used to go there for meals and things like
Yeah.
that, which was wonderful, but we'll be providing them this year for our kiddos.
Well, like everything, we're adjusting on the fly.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Well, Amy, thank you so much. Yeah, that's really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And we'll be watching to see how the kids perform this summer. We'll get a wrap up from you a little bit later in the summer.
Thank you.
As we talk about keeping our children safe while still having fun, this summer at the Boys and Girls Club, as we just talked about, the latest news across the county about defunding and even disbanding the police has me perplexed. When we come back, we will be talking with Jessi Ebben and top law enforcement officials to get answers to these vexing questions. And by the way, the catering for cast and crew has been provided by Marco's Italian and American Grill in Warrens. Great food with a fun and relaxing atmosphere at Marco's.
And Nick, don't forget, Sunday at Marco's
Is
car show.
again.
Yes, again, they had it, and it was such a good success. They're doing it again.
So, in addition to all the great food, okay, the car show. Thanks.
At Moulters Fresh Market, we're in this together. We're working hard to keep our shelves stocked and our prices low. Moulters is buying truckloads of things you need every day, like pallets of bottled water, a truckload of toilet paper, even pallets of charcoal for your summertime barbecues. It's time to head to Moulters Fresh Market, stocking up so you can save.
You want it, we'll find it, you got it. Price match and relax. That's the Rudick Jensen deal, sealed with a platinum level membership. Oil changes, done. Tires, brakes, alignment, all done. Car wash, you got it. Rudick Jensen Auto Mall, New Lisbon. Check out our inventory online at rudickjensen.com.
The Oakdale Credit Union has spent decades serving Oakdale, Mauston, and Reedsburg. From comprehensive financial services to reliable mortgage loans, we strive to provide unparalleled care.
I like the warm and friendly atmosphere each and every time I come in. The staff is very knowledgeable and truly cares about its members.
Come and learn more about the Oakdale Credit Union, where we treat you like a member of the family.
Relax at Marco's Italian and American Grill in Warrens, Wisconsin.
Hello, I'm Colonel Eric Peterson, commander of the 115th Fighter Wing, and you're watching Lynxx 24, connecting you to the community.
As cities burn across the country with tensions building between the public and law enforcement, the talks of disbanding the police have added a strange twist to the situation. What would a society look like without the police? How would law and order be maintained? To answer these questions and more, we have an impressive group of professionals assembled. First, we have, via Zoom, Grant County Sheriff Nathan Dreckman, who is also the first vice president of the Badger State Sheriff's Association. Next, also on Zoom, Monroe County District Attorney Kevin Croninger. And in studio, we have Tomah Police Chief Mark Nicholson. And finally, we have Jessi Ebben, conservative candidate running for Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. My first question is going to go to Jessi about why, there's a two-part question, Jessi. Why is it important to have a police force, and why do some want to defund the police?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question, and thank you for having me on. It's important to have a police force. I mean, they are who uphold the law and order, the public safety of our communities, and I've worked right alongside them in public as a public information officer. And in that role, I serve right alongside them specifically in times of crisis to work on informing the public. Now, people are looking to defund police departments, unfortunately, as a response to a situation. And what we really need to talk about, if there is going to be a good discussion, is about reform. And what we need to look at are the people right alongside us in this panel. As Wisconsin, we are leading the nation as police forces, as sheriff's departments. We hold the standard. And so I'm really proud to be alongside them. And as we have these discussions of reform, we need to be looking to Wisconsin police departments and sheriff departments for that standard to go to.
Thank you, Jessi. Nick, you have the next question.
Sure. My question goes to District Attorney Kevin Croninger. If cities refund or disband their police departments, what would they do to maintain order, and who is gathering evidence in crimes? And how would that impact your office?
Sure. Thank you, and thanks for having me on again. The first thing I would say is I think it's a difficult question to answer, who would be enforcing the law. I don't know that there would be anyone. There are places around the world where it's a private citizen's job to enforce the law. In those situations, the only people who tend to be able to prosecute crimes when they're a victim is those who are very wealthy. I think that would be incredibly unfair to those who are more meek amongst us. For those who are more disadvantaged amongst us, we have the system we have to protect those people, to protect the innocent children, to protect the elderly, to protect those who can't protect themselves. And we have law enforcement officers across this country, and particularly in this area, who go out there every day and risk their lives to keep those people safe. And I think anything we did to take away that protection would be a terrible thing for either our area or for our country. As far as how it would affect our office, I think we would see much less professionalism in the reports we are getting. If you just have a random person starting an investigation and they don't know how to do an investigation, if they don't understand the law the way our well-trained law enforcement officers do, it's likely going to cause situations where we have to dismiss a lot of cases because rights were violated because they didn't do things the way they needed to be done. So I think it's really important that we have discussions about all the time about what we can do better as law enforcement, but also that we recognize the great job that our law enforcement officers locally and around our state are doing and the professionalism that they provide to our citizens every day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Joe, you have another question.
Yeah, this is to Tomah Police Chief Mark Nicholson. MPD 150, it's an organization that in Minneapolis that focuses on abolishing local police and they made a statement, and I'm quoting here, "The people who respond to crises in our community should be the people who are best equipped to deal with those crises." What's your response to that statement?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity to come and try to answer these difficult questions that we have across the nation right now. I think it's important to point out that the MPD 150 organization isn't trying to defund or reduce the number of police officers within their organization. They're actually trying to eliminate it. It's kind of hit home with a quote that I found on their website that kind of summarizes, "Cops don't prevent crime, they cause it through the ongoing violent disruption of our communities." While I absolutely do not agree with that, I do agree with their quote that you're asking me about in reference to those who respond to crisis should be the best equipped for it. However, with what they are trying to do, even with the social reforms they're trying to put in place, trying to have more social workers, trying to have better access to alcohol and drug prevention programs, trying to have better housing, more equal employment. At the end of the day, even when they do that, if there's a crisis, it's going to be law enforcement that responds. And I think that's what needs to be remembered is even when or if they make these reforms, it's still going to be law enforcement that responds to the crisis.
Because they're the ones getting the training.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to move our next question, the same kind of that idea to Sheriff Nathan Dreckman to share his thoughts on that same statement that you and your deputies on the front line every day dealing with crises in Grant County. How would you not be the best equipped to handle that?
That's actually a great question, and I think there's a couple of things we want to consider. One is, I've looked at the different thoughts out there about defunding, police and so forth. And one of the concepts is that we take away some of the social work roles that we do or some of the mental health roles that we do. And over the years, I've been in law enforcement 25 years, things just continually get thrust onto law enforcement. It's like, well, we don't really have a solution for that, so let's have law enforcement do it. So, like Jessi said, I think there is some conversation that needs to take place about how we can do things better. And that's my position from the start of this whole deal is that we can always do things better. So if we want to talk about defunding the police department or law enforcement in general, it's like, okay, then why don't you just give us the funding so that we can put social workers on staff or mental health professionals on staff so that after law enforcement goes and stabilizes a scene, we have immediate access to somebody that can help us deal with those situations. So we are trained. Wisconsin has some of the best trained law enforcement in the country. And I think that message is not getting out yet. We worked with the Wisconsin Chiefs of Police to put together what we call like a white paper, a summary of all the training regarding use of force and so forth in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's at the top of law enforcement training in the country. And we just can't forget that. But again, over the years, we've been thrust different roles in our laps. So if we want to have a conversation about how we can kind of share some of those different duties that we do now, I'm all for it because, I would love to have social workers on staff and mental health professionals to help our deputies out on the street. But we have to go first and stabilize the scene. And so you just can't get rid of law enforcement.
Thank you, Sheriff. When we come back, we'll continue this very important conversation after our break. Back in 2.
Tomah Tomah Health is introducing Video Visit, a virtual telehealth option to provide you and your family quality care in these challenging times. Video Visit provides secure face-to-face access to a board-certified medical provider over your smartphone, tablet, or computer to assess specific medical conditions and prescribe common medications. The service is easy to access and available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Tomah Health, together in care. Learn more about Video Visit at tomahhealth.org.
Abra Auto Body and Glass, a division of Rudick Jensen in New Lisbon, can handle everything from major auto and truck body damage to windshield replacements, filling chips, dents, and door dings, featuring a 46-foot custom paint booth for boats, RVs, trailers, you name it. If it fits, we can paint it. State-of-the-art facility, aluminum repair certified, all makes and models, foreign and domestic, all insurance companies welcome. Rest assured, repairs will be done right the first time, on time. Call Abra Auto Body and Glass in New Lisbon today. Moulter's family-owned store brings you fresh. Feel healthy with a wide selection of organic foods, gluten-free products, certified Black Angus beef, and handmade brats. Moulter's has a great selection of meats, so choosing can be tough. Just ask our butcher to help you make the perfect selection. Moulter's brings you fresh-packed deli meals for those on the go. And of course, our fresh market. Download our mobile app and start saving money today. Moulter's brings you fresh.
Hello?
Show yourself!
The Invisible Man is in your home. Surprise! The Invisible Man.
There you are.
Rated R. Watch now.
You are watching Lynxx 24, connecting you to your community.
Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion regarding the future of police departments in America. I want to start this next segment with a statement made by the Minneapolis City Council member Steve Fletcher. In a Twitter thread, he said council members are discussing, and I quote, "What would it take to disband Minneapolis Police Department and start fresh with a community-oriented, nonviolent public safety and outreach capacity?" So we're going to start. Jessi, your thoughts on that comment?
Yeah, well, just looking at that initially by someone who's called to represent people, it's a very political statement and not a statement that talks about caring for the public safety of the citizens and constituents that they represent. And it's discrediting police officers, law enforcement, peace officers who hold up that thin blue line between safety and chaos in our communities. It's completely discrediting them for the work that they do. There's so much that police officers, that deputies and sheriffs see that we have no idea about, that you guys have a completely different lens on society. And it's discrediting that and the value that is carried out by police officers, by peace officers. So it's very political, it's not informative, and it's not representative of the communities that they need to be fighting for and care about the safety of.
Thank you.
April, I have a question for the sheriff, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Nick.
Sheriff, you alluded to something about an 8-page white paper or something in that area that came out. I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
So what the Wisconsin Chiefs of Police and Executive Board of the Badger State Sheriffs put together like a summary of our training here in Wisconsin regarding use of force, what policies are in place, what statutes are applicable as well, just kind of outlining all that. And, you know, we go through cultural competence training, bias-based police training, you know, on and on. And I think a lot of the general public doesn't really understand how really well-trained Wisconsin law enforcement is. You know, I think, you know, we're one of the few states in the United States that requires 60 college credits just to apply to be a police officer. So right off the bat, we're requiring at least a minimum of an associate's degree to become a law enforcement officer. So to me, we're ahead of the game there as well. But we have these mandatory policies that are in place. You know, one of the things that I did was I kind of looked at our own policies. I'm like, where are we sitting at, you know, with our use of force policy? And we use a great company called Lexipol that many agencies in Wisconsin use, and they create the policies for us based on statute, best practice, and so forth. And one of the things I was looking for specifically was there was a lot of conversation about the other officers in the Minneapolis incident that just stood there and didn't do anything. And people are like, you know, oh, they should have done something. And our policy specifically states that you have a duty to intervene if you see someone using excessive force in a situation like that. So, many Wisconsin agencies already have that in place. So that whole paper, and we can give you the link to put on your website and so forth, where people can go to and read it. We've got it up on our webpage, so I can send it to you later.
Yeah, that's great. And the viewers should know that this is something that you guys didn't just come up with. This is what's in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question for Mark, the Chief of Police in Tomah. Mark, what are you seeing or hearing maybe about I know the Madison School District is talking about the school resource officer role. Do you have any thoughts or comments on that?
I have heard additional information, same as other people are hearing, that there are some municipalities that are looking at the services that are being provided and defunding those services, pulling the school resource officer out of the school. I have not heard as of this time what their reasonings are for that, but I am hearing the same thing. I don't see any value in pulling those school resource officers out of the schools. It is a very valuable asset to both the police department as well as the students and the teachers. And I just I don't understand why they're even thinking about doing that.
April, I have a follow-up for Kevin.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
Kevin, do you what are you hearing from other attorneys general around the state or in other states on this whole issue? I mean, you guys must talk at a certain level, okay? And I'm wondering what your reaction is to what's going on. Their reaction too.
Yeah, I think it probably varies a little bit. Attorneys tend to be opinionated people.
Oh my God!
But I think generally the sentiment is that we believe that law enforcement does a tremendous job, that they're well trained, that certainly no one is perfect, right? Law enforcement officers are human beings, so our mistakes made, certainly, but we know our agencies in our counties, we work with them every day, and we know that they're striving to do the best job they can to have the most professional, well-trained, respectful police officers they can. I see that on a daily basis from the agencies in our county, from Chief Nicholson's department, from our Sheriff's Department, from the City of Sparta Police Department, from the other agencies in the county. And so I think generally there's a sentiment that we feel like perhaps people don't have a full understanding of what goes on. I think Sheriff Dreckman sort of alluded to that people haven't taken the time to learn, for instance, the policies of a sheriff's department or a local police department. And a lot of these issues that people are concerned with have already been addressed, at least in the departments in our area and that I'm aware of. And they'll continue to take constructive criticism and consider issues. But a lot of these issues have already been addressed and are being worked on by our great law enforcement professionals.
Yeah, so it sounds like none of you guys have been caught off guard, if you will. You're prepared. You know about these issues. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think law enforcement is constantly aware of these things. Over the course of the last 10 years or so, there's been more attention paid to appropriate use of force to law enforcement. And I think law enforcement, at least in the areas I've had experience with them, which is mainly Wisconsin and mainly Western Wisconsin, has responded to that, has taken steps to address any issues that they may have seen. And I'm extremely proud of the work that the law enforcement agencies do in our county, because I think they've really led the way, and I think Wisconsin is leading the way on these issues.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah. And a question I want us to maybe get to, we're gonna tell our viewers right now, we're gonna continue this conversation with you, with our law enforcement and Jessi in studio. We're gonna continue the conversation on YouTube. So if you're viewing the program on Lynxx 24, head over to our Image Pictures YouTube channel, and you can join the live broadcast there. And if you're on YouTube right now, we're going to continue this conversation after we roll the credits. But we really want to maybe talk a little bit, too, with our guests, their opinions, too, about the basic rights of our Constitution that citizens have, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and how law and order and safety allow us to have pursuit of happiness. So we want to thank our viewers for joining us on our 400 show this week, where we are connecting
you to the community.
joining us live on YouTube. We are here in studio. We're talking about the absolute kind of hot topic happening in the United States, defund the police, after the recent George Floyd incident. And we have in studio with us, we're going to continue our conversation. And Nick, I know you have some questions you wanted to ask.
Well, I wanted to ask Jessi. She's the closest thing we have right here to a politician. Okay, and she's running.
Public servant.
Thank you. Good, public servant. But what would you hear from anything going on in Madison? You know, what's the scuttlebutt going on about what's happening up in Minnesota and how it might apply here in Wisconsin? Is anybody worried about this?
Yeah, there's a bill, AB 1012, out there regarding police officers, regarding funding for police, and maybe you could even speak more on that.
It's a new bill?
This is brought up. Well, it's been brought up earlier in the session, but has been brought back up to the forefront again.
Good. I got you.
So that's in Madison, and then at the federal level, which is the office I'm running for, there was a hearing in the Judicial Committee, the House Committee. So that's the House of Representatives. Yep. And they talked about the proposal to defund police and police reform. And so that was a great discussion had yesterday. They had a lot of great witnesses there. And the consensus essentially coming out of that is that people are willing to discuss and they're willing to talk about reform, but not defunding and not dismantling police, because we need to keep our public safety going. And just like April said, to pursue, to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we need that border. We need to be able to be free, and with that, we need public safety to help us get there. Yeah. So that was a great discussion, a great hearing had. And again, Wisconsin's going to lead the way in the reform, because we are the leaders, because of the proactive work, the forward-thinking work that we have done at the local level, and at the county level within our own state. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Wisconsin as people look to have these discussions.
It's encouraging that what's happening in Washington isn't quite as crazy as what we see on the news, okay? Because, the media tends to cover this thing from one angle, and it's kind of scary. But that's what your report sounds like. Cooler heads are prevailing. Yeah, it was a very good discussion, a very level-headed discussion, and I think that means we're at a good place, and that's something we carry out in western and central Wisconsin, is conversations with common sense, and that's how we've been able to go about things, and that's why we have great leaders in law enforcement within our state, because we're very forward-thinking. We think very practically about solutions. So what's this AB bill?
AB 1012. It's the Assembly bill that has went through. And it is basically a law enforcement reform bill. There's a couple different required policies in there that they're going to be looking at. And as the sheriff said, it's very interesting to read through what they are suggesting that we need to put in as legislation when we look at our policies that we currently have in place. The Tomah Police Department also uses the Lexipol policy program. A majority of those policies that we already have in place and those practices we have in place are the same things that they're recommending that are in this AB 1012. So again, it's an example of where we are at in Wisconsin, or where a majority of the law enforcement agencies are already at.
Yeah, where does legislation like that start? Does it start from the police end, or does it start from the...
generally speaking, no, it doesn't. It doesn't start at the police end. It starts at the legislative end, at the assembly, and then goes up through the process. Yeah,
very good. So it sounds like even though we have 8 pages of good stuff that the sheriff has talked about, we're open to looking and seeing if we can make it a little bit better.
100%. We can always be better, and we always strive to be better.
Okay, right. We don't want to misunderstand that reform doesn't mean we're going to finally get to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Nick. There's good questions. The question I have is for either the district attorney or the sheriff to talk about, we're saying you're hearing defunding, but could you maybe tell our viewers where the funding is, where does funding come from to pay for law enforcement services?
Yeah, I can answer that because, obviously we deal with the budget and running a jail and so forth here in Grant County, and it's through taxpayer funding, here in Grant County through our levy, that comes in from property taxes and so forth. So that is where a majority of our funding comes from. We do get a little bit of revenue from a few different sources, but it's definitely not enough to offset the entire budget. And that's part of the reason that I enjoy this position so much, is that I work for the people. Jessi had said something, being a public servant, and that's exactly the role that I feel we are as law enforcement in general. We're here to listen to the public. We're here to, to enforce the laws. I'll give you an example real briefly. Recently was regarding the stay-at-home order and the unknown of whether, the Supreme Court is going to rule one way or another. We had conversations locally, and I said to our health director, I said, it's going to be difficult for me if you make a local order, because I have half my population saying no and the other half saying yes, how do I enforce a law that only half the population supports? When we look at laws in general in our community, you get 95+% of the people that support those laws. And it makes it easy for me to enforce them. It makes it easy for our DAs to prosecute them because the public as a whole supports them. So, the biggest thing is to make sure that we keep the engagement on a local level. A lot of the federal things that they're proposing, is kind of this big, broad paintbrush. And really, when it comes down to it, it's like we here in Wisconsin, and then in our county level, and in our village and municipal level, we need to make sure that we have some local control of how we do law enforcement in our state, because it's different for me here in Grant County versus how they do policing in Milwaukee or Milwaukee County. It's two different areas. We have to have some flexibility to do things a little bit different. So just staying engaged with our community, I think, is very important.
Great, that's a great answer. And 72 counties in Wisconsin with 72 sheriffs, rural, suburban, and we've got a lot of different types of counties. So my next question that I have is, can we talk a little bit about the taxpayer's role then? So if our community members are upset about this idea of defunding police, where would any of you, and we'll just have anybody kind of jump in, where would you suggest that citizens, the taxpayers, go to let their opinions be known? What would be the most important person they're contacting?
Well, I will attempt to answer that. I think there's several different locations that they can go to. Initially, if it's an issue with the law enforcement agency itself, I would suggest contacting the law enforcement agency and speaking with the chief and seeing if they can work it out. If it's an issue that needs to go further than that, in the city itself, there's aldermen that they can go speak with. There's a city administrator that they can speak with. Ultimately, there's a city council that they can speak with. It is the city council that ultimately makes changes to our ordinances. So that's where it would go to actually make changes.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying, Chief, is that it's really important for community members, for our citizens, to know who their ward representatives are, who the city council, who is your mayor, and really know that the power of some of those laws and that enforcement and that taxpayer money relies in those kinds of positions that we've elected those people into. It's our democracy.
Absolutely. It's extremely important to keep that line of communication open, know who you need to speak with, recognize and understand at any time you can pick up the phone or stop at the city hall, stop at the police department, let's have a conversation. We may be able to take care of something in a 5-minute phone call or a five-minute conversation over a cup of coffee. Let's see if we can get it done.
Yeah. It might be also useful for folks to know when the hearings are taking place and when meetings and the forums take place where you can then formally voice your opinion, or questions about that stuff.
Yep, and that's always publicly posted either online or at the city hall or the county building.
Right. Jessi, can I ask you, is there a good website for our viewers that they could go to? Like, I read the Wheeler Report that was recommended to me by a law enforcement person to say, April, check the Wheeler Report because that posts a lot of stuff. Do you have any suggestions for an online, direct link for our viewers to go to?
For the information about the police discussion right now?
Or anything in general.
Yeah.
What would be a good website, for a credible, valid website for our viewers?
Yeah, if you're looking for, legislative updates, I would say wizpolitics.com. I would go straight to the legislative website at the state level. I would go straight to the Library of Congress if you're looking for federal bills, and like the bill I was just discussing that they had in the judiciary hearing. Or if you're looking at your city or county level, going straight to their websites. The information is all public, it's transparent, and that's the best place to find that information.
Great.
Yeah, that's great.
Joe, you have a question?
Well, I have a quick question. Just anyone can answer this. If the nation starts moving towards some sort of reform, and it comes down from the federal or the state, at what level does, let's say we have to reallocate funds, where would that begin? Would that begin at the local, or would it be directed from state or federal?
Or federal.
It's a
district attorney?
I can jump in quick. I think it depends on the structure of the bill and what they specifically put in there. I think if we're going to see it, I think it's probably more likely to come, in my opinion, at the state level. Or at least maybe that's more so me just hoping, because I think that's easier to implement. Mandates from the federal government for local law enforcement, I think, are difficult to implement. we have. And one of the great things about how Wisconsin is and how most of America is we have local sheriffs who know their counties. We have local chiefs of police who know their cities. Sheriff Dreckman's been an officer for 25 years. I think he indicated. Chief Nicholson, I don't know the exact number, but he's been with the city of Tomah Police Department for decades. He knows the city of Tomah. Sheriff Dreckman knows Grant County. These are the people who know how to handle policing in these areas. And I think anytime we have people in Washington telling them how to do their job, I don't think that's a good idea.
And as someone who's running for that federal role, who would be a representative out of Washington for this district, I mean, these are the kind of conversations that we're having. So if that bill, that legislation does come across my desk as a future representative, these are the people I call to the table. These are the people I call to see, is this legislation good or bad? How is it going to impact us at the local level? Instead of making the decision at the federal level, these are all local decisions that need to be made with local people at the table.
With that said, there are often unfunded mandates that do come down. And those are the ones that are put directly on the shoulders of the local municipalities.
Right, without money.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I really want to thank Grant County Sheriff Nathan Dreckman and our Monroe County District Attorney Kevin Croninger and Tomah Police Chief Mark Nicholson, and of course Jessi Ebben, who's running for Congressional District, the 3rd seat, for joining us here on the Lynxx 24 and connecting with you about a very serious and important topic. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, thanks for having us.